The International Criminal Court's chief prosecutor has requested arrest warrants for the supreme leader and the chief justice of the Taliban in Afghanistan. Karim Khan says there are reasonable grounds to believe the officials bear responsibility for the persecution of Afghan women, girls and the gender-diverse community. ICC judges will now consider the prosecutor's application. A decision could take several weeks or even months. Mr. Khan says further applications will be made.
Perceived resistance or opposition to the Taliban was and is brutally repressed through the commission of crimes including murder, imprisonment, torture, rape, and other forms of sexual violence, enforced disappearance, and other inhumane acts. These are the first applications for arrest warrants in the situation in Afghanistan. My office will file further applications for other senior members of the Taliban soon. These applications recognise that Afghan women and girls, as well as the LGBTQI+ community, are facing an unprecedented, unconscionable, and ongoing persecution by the Taliban. Our action signals the status quo for women and girls in Afghanistan is not acceptable.
Well, the Taliban took back control of Afghanistan in 2021, pledging a softer rule than its first time in power. Since then, the group has clamped down on women's rights, reversing a decision to allow girls to attend high school and introducing a nationwide ban on women using gyms and parks. In 2023, beauty salons were ordered to shut down, and last year the Taliban started arresting women for wearing bad hijab. Well, I'm joined now by leading Afghan women's rights and civil society activist, Zubaydah Akbar. Zubaydah, good morning to you. How significant is this move by the ICC, do you think?
Thank you so much for having me and for this opportunity. I think this is a historic and significant step towards gender justice for Afghanistan and globally. It highlights the oppression that women and the LGBTQI+ community has faced under the Taliban during the past 3 years. As you mentioned, there have been so many bans and edicts impacting the full spectrum of the rights of women, over 100 bans. Most recently, the Taliban banned women's training in medical institution, which effectively means limited access to health services, which impacts the very right of women to life. This also signals that the ICC recognizes the crimes against Afghan women that are being committed by the Taliban, and they are willing to hold those who commit these crimes accountable. It sends a message to the Taliban as well that they cannot continue to commit these crimes with impunity. It, of course, most importantly, offers some hope to Afghan women that their voices are being heard and their struggles are being seen finally after over 3 years of oppression.
But really, isn't the honest truth that the Taliban will just take no notice of this ruling, or when it comes, if it comes, and they will just carry on the path that they want to follow?
They will do that. I think that's how the Taliban are. But this step is important because it can serve as a pressure on the Taliban and also on the international community while they engage with the Taliban. And this is extremely meaningful. Yes, we may not see the Taliban leaders behind bars anytime soon in the near future. But to recognize their actions as a crime against women, as a crime against humanity, is a very important step, while the world, for the past 3 years, has continued to normalize their regime and their oppression. I think it's also important, for example, for entities like UNAMA or other special envoys that engage with the Taliban unconditionally and normalize them and preach them at the international stages, to be more cautious of how they engage with the Taliban. How can they hold them more accountable and responsible for the things that they do, and maybe get something out of them, because for the past 3 years the relationship has been very one-sided. The Taliban bully, threaten, pressure women, use them as hostages to get what they want, and they have succeeded. We have not seen one single progress when it comes to women's rights, and unlike the promises that they made to the international community from the Taliban, if anything, we have seen daily oppression. Maybe this kind of pressure is needed both to scare the Taliban, but also the international community, especially those who engage with them unconditionally and appease them.
Most Western governments don't recognise the Taliban as the rulers. Do you think it would help, or there would be progress if America, the UK, Australia started talks with the Taliban?
I think, I mean, to say that the international community does not recognize the Taliban is not entirely valid. The Taliban do have de facto recognition. They are in a much better place than they were the last time they were in power. Then they are invited to different countries. There are red carpets at their feet to attend conferences and meetings. Special envoys travel all the way from New York to meet them, and they go to Kandahar to meet with their leader and is rejected. So maybe formally they don't have recognition, but they do have de facto recognition. They do receive, their government does receive funding. Their government does misuse the humanitarian funding that goes to Afghanistan. They are benefiting a lot from the engagement that's happening with them already through the US, through other key governments, and they do engage with them already. I think the problem is not that there is a lack of engagement with the Taliban. The problem is that this engagement is not leading to any change in the lives of Afghan women, and the lives of marginalized ethnic and religious groups, and the lives of LGBT community, which is under persecution, and in the lives of the Afghan general public. So I think we should be, what we have been asking for is, if you do talk to the Taliban, if you do engage with them, make sure that the rights of women and human rights is prioritized. But what we have seen in action is that even the UN itself, they excluded women from the Doha process last year at the demand of the Taliban.
What sort of support or uprising, if you like, is there in Afghanistan amongst women? Is there a movement? I mean, I'm thinking that the international community would like the uprising to come from within.
Absolutely, absolutely. As you may be aware, Afghan women started staging outdoor protests on the streets of Kabul and in different provinces when the Taliban took over. And these protests were very costly for them. They protested under the slogan "Bread, Work, Freedom." They continue these protests. We might not see them on the streets as much, but there is daily acts of resistance by women from across Afghanistan mobilizing in each other's homes, mainly because the public space has been taken away from them. Organizing secret classes so that education for girls continue, mobilizing their communities to the extent possible to promote and defend human rights. So there has not been a lack of resistance, civic resistance, specifically not by Afghan women. They have done it for the past 3 years, but the issue is that the civic resistance has not been supported, has not been recognized. The international community does not acknowledge this. They do not receive political support. They do not receive funding for the work that they do. The international community is unfortunately used to organized civil society organizations in Afghanistan. They don't understand that now this is a different scene in Afghanistan. And the civil society right now that's making human rights demands is the secret underground women's groups that get together, hold a press conference in secret, record themselves and send it to the media. And I think the fact that this is happening today and the ICC is making this request for arrest warrant is due to that resistance of Afghan women, due to their protests, due to their demands, that they have kept the light on Afghanistan. They have kept the light on what's happening to women. It's because of them. It's because of their fight and resistance that we know. It's because of them that we hear about all these edicts and all this oppression. So I think the resistance from within exists, but it's extremely difficult to expand that when you're being abducted from your home, when you're being put in prisons and tortured, and there is no legal system, there is no rule of law, there is no accountability. Countless women have been missing in Afghanistan for demanding rights. They have been imprisoned, they have been tortured, their bodies have been found on the streets, and they have not stopped. Today, when this announcement came out, women staged indoor press conferences in each other's homes, which is currently the only space available for them. They cannot go to a library, they cannot go to a mosque, they cannot go out on the street to protest. All those spaces are shut down for them. But they took this opportunity to gather and to welcome this step and to ask for more, which included asking for additional requests to hold the Taliban's Minister of Education accountable, Minister of Higher Education accountable, the Taliban's Minister of Vice and Virtue accountable, who has issued a 100-page book of laws impacting literally every single aspect of women's rights. He recently banned windows that could be facing women.